What is up, Beastcoast Pokemon? I'm James Baek, and I recently won the Peoria Regional Championship. It was the first event in Regulation E, which includes the new Pokemon from the Teal Mask, and we didn't have an official legal rule set of what was actually allowed in the format until the last couple of hours of the month of September, and the event happened the first weekend of October, which trying to come up with a team and try to practice a format you don't even know if it's officially the format was a little bit stressful, so ended up trying to crunch out teams late a week of, and I didn't really have a team until Friday night, the night before the regional championship. Ended up crafting something in the car ride, but finalizing it in the hotel room before having to lock in and submit a team that Friday night. So I ended up creating this team by fusing two different teams that I saw online, and those are the ones that caught my interest the most. And yeah, it involved both of them with Goldengo, which is a Pokemon I wasn't too sure going into this event because Goldengo fell off significantly, mainly because there was a bunch of Ogerpons that can dish out a lot of damage into it, but also Kingambit was on the rise. It was probably one of the most common Pokemon that we've seen in the grassroots tournament, such as the Beastcoast Safari event that happened previously. Wasn't too sure if it was actually going to be that threatening at the event, but I was already really out of options at that point, and I made some adjustments for the Regulation E series and brought a Terra Dragon Goldengo, which wasn't really used at all prior to then. Also adding a new addition from the Teal Mask, which is Ogerpon. I ended up going with the Water Ogerpon because I really like the idea of Follow Me support, but also because I was using Rain, I'd be able to also use a very powerful IB Cudgel that is rain boosted as well, so it could be both a support mon but also an offensive threat. As I mentioned, I basically fused two teams together, and the two main teams that I really got inspiration from was this team that did really well in a grassroots tournament in Japan that basically featured 5 of the same 6. The only difference was there was a Rillaboom over the Iron Hands that I had on my team, and then the team from Regulation D that got top 16 at the World Championship, which was Luca Lucario's Rain team with Goldengo, and they had very similar concepts, and these were the teams that kind of interested me the most. I thought Scarfer Shifu was actually really good. Renatus could be solid, and I thought Nasty Paw Goldengo, I really liked it compared to the Choice Specs Goldengo, because I felt the Choice Specs Goldengo, it's a lot harder to actually set up for like being able to pick up knockouts and tailwinds. So having that support from Follow Me, for instance, from Ogerpon, as well as Fake Out support from either Iron Hands or Rillaboom, I thought could be a really good option to combine. So ended up fusing the team together, making a few edits along the way, and ended up bringing that to the Peoria Regional Championship. The main concepts of the team were mainly 2 different modes, which involved the heavy offense of the Scarfer Shifu that is able to threaten so much damage, utilizing it with the Rain Dance Tornadus to power it up, and Tailwind to outspeed my opponent and always have that advantage, alongside the Goldengo support mode, where I would just try to set up a Nasty Plot with Goldengo on teams that just really couldn't break through it, using Fake Out Iron Hands alongside the Follow Me Ogerpon, and having a great Intimidate offensive Arcanine that could work both for supporting Goldengo, but also threatening very powerful offense with the Urshifu Tailwind mode. There were a lot of matches that I actually had where I was able to utilize the Goldengo. For instance, in one of my rounds of Swiss, where I ended up playing a triple fairy team, they actually had really no way of breaking through Goldengo. There were actually surprisingly a good amount of teams that couldn't break through Goldengo at all at this event. I faced 4 Blood Moon Ursaluna teams at the regional championship, and none of them could really stop me from just clicking Nasty Plot with Goldengo. I would have Fake Out with Iron Hands or just Follow Me with the Ogerpon, and if they did get a position where they could actually threaten the Goldengo, I did have Terra Dragon to cover for a lot of weaknesses, especially against opposing Ogerpon. So Goldengo was able to do really well. And then, for instance, in the finals as well as my semifinals match, I was able to showcase how strong that Choice Scarf for Shifu mode could be under the rain and dish out a ton of damage that could just overwhelm opponents instantly. So right before the event started, I actually kind of realized that I actually had a little bit of issues with the current meta teams that were pretty much running around at the time. The two main threats that I really thought of that were scary was going to be the combination of Chi-Yu, Iron Hands, Fluttermane, King Gambit, and the Water Ogerpon, because the Water Ogerpon really was able to shut down my Urshifu, preventing it from being able to hit the partners, which I usually really like to rely on Scarf Urshifu for, so it made the games a lot harder. And then the other one was a meta team where Michael DeBest, the second place at the World Championship from last year, has been using quite frequently a double grassy glide spam with the Fire Ogerpon with Swords Dance and Rillaboom, partnered with Iron Bundle, which is able to hit like all my mons super effectively, even through the Terras. So it's really hard to actually punish the Fire Ogerpon with my Intimidate Mon because I might be risking playing into that King Gambit. And those were teams that I faced really early in the tournament. So when I was going through the gauntlet, it was really the earlier rounds that actually gave me probably the hardest matchups I think throughout the entire tournament, because I was facing those meta teams, and my record overall for the tournament was 16-1 in sets, and the set I actually lost was really early into the tournament in round 3, and it was the other matchup that I was really worried about, which was the Water Ogerpon paired with the Chi-Yu and the Fluttermane Iron Hands King Gambit combination, because normally a Choice Band Arcanine would be able to do a lot there, but there are the threats of the King Gambit. Giving it that Defiant boost could actually give me quite a few problems, because sometimes I'm not able to bring the double fighting or just like have enough to pressure the King Gambit next to the Follow Me Ogerpon. And alongside that, it was a very fast Chi-Yu that was just able to hit hard, and I ended up succeeding and winning throughout the entire tournament, winning 14 straight sets in a row. So my top cut bracket is actually really interesting, because the 3 opponents that I played in top cut, aka the top 8, top 4, and finals, were actually my last 3 opponents from the final rounds of Swiss, where I ended up rematching all of them. So I actually had to beat them again in order to advance and win the entire regional. So in top 8, I ended up facing Leonard Kraft, and he was running one of the Blood Moon Ursaluna teams that I ended up facing in round 14, the final round of Swiss. Something that I was able to do really well was just abuse the Golden Go. I was able to hard call him in the top 8 match specifically. I was able to catch, for instance, the Landis variant. I hard called a U-turn as I let Golden Go Iron Hands. They didn't click Stomping Tantrum because they knew I could go into Ogerpon and maybe protect and play passively. So ended up hard calling a U-turn, was able to nasty plot with Golden Go immediately, and I had so much momentum going into it that I was just able to pick up the victory. And then game 2, another thing with Golden Go, and was able to clean up from there. In the semifinals that was actually streamed, this one matchup was the one I was also scared about. It was basically the same team that I ended up facing in round 3, which was my loss. And the Water Ogerpon again is very scary with the Voice Specs Chi-Yu. The only difference was that this one didn't have Ghost Terra Blast, so it actually couldn't threaten the knockout into my Urshifu and do a lot of damage because I don't have a Ghost Resist. So that was actually pretty important. In game 1, I felt like I pretty much knew how he was going to play, because when I played him in the Swiss rounds, he ended up going with the same 4 the entire time. So I felt like he wasn't really going to make any adjustments. I ended up making an adjustment in game 3 that was able to seal up the victory, where I had the Hisuian Arcanine as a bring, which I didn't bring. I didn't think he would go King Gambit against a double fighting type, and I was able to utilize a lot of smart pivoting and able to set up, and I was actually able to get rid of the Landis variant and the Chi-Yu that weren't able to protect because of their choice items, and then the Surging Strikes was able to clean those up, so I can actually just focus on the Ogerpon in the late game. And then game 2, the big read that actually got me into the victory spot was just allowing me to call that the Water Ogerpon would switch out to Iron Hands to sack it. Water Ogerpon was so valuable in that matchup that I felt like they had to protect it, because if they lost to Water Ogerpon, everything was in range of basically my Urshifu to just win the game with Surging Strikes. So I ended up turning down the Landis variant because it had a double power and Stomping Tantrum that could actually OHKO like whatever was coming in from my Hisuian Arcanine. So I went for a Tailwind, I went for the Choice Band and Flare Blitz. They couldn't switch in the Landis for the Intimidate. Whatever's coming in, Flare Blitz is just doing so much damage, so was able to eliminate the Landis variant, and then I was able to get a really huge knockout and just continue picking up knockouts straight from there. In the finals match, I think I played really well against Luca. I had a really solid matchup, I think, overall. There were a few things that I did identify that if he was going to play, it was going to be towards his win condition, which he needed quite a bit, which was involving winning the Tailwind War, or at least matching the Tailwind. The thing is, my Scarfer Shifu outsped his entire team, and I had Tailwind on my Tornadus. He had Tailwind on Tornadus, but I also had Taunt, so he couldn't really set up Tailwind late in the game because I would just be able to taunt it, so it was really hard for them to get a speed advantage. The main ways I identified he would be having to deal with the Urshifu was going to be the Flutter Mane, because the Ogerpon on his side actually didn't have enough firepower to knock out my Urshifu in one hit unless he went for Terra, and if he goes for Terra, then he's just weak to Aqua Jet and Surging Strike, so it's already pretty bad for him. The Horn Leech is actually unable to KO my Urshifu unless he has the attack boost, so a little bit difficult for him, so Flutter Mane was pretty much his big one. But the thing is, I just outspeed Flutter Mane in Surging Strikes to pick up the knockout, and that's something I really abused in the finals. The one thing I just tried to deny was him positioning where he had Tailwind up, but also like Ogerpon next to Flutter Mane. If he got Ogerpon next to Flutter Mane, then he could actually go for Follow Me, sack his Ogerpon, and then Flutter Mane can do a lot of damage, because a lot of the things that I did was abusing the Iron Hands next to my Urshifu, which are both weak to Dazzling Gleam, and could still do a lot of damage even through a Terra that I have, which is both offensive and defensive in this case. So I did try to pin down like Flutter Mane or like getting rid of the Tornadus early, so you wouldn't be able to have Tailwind, so Urshifu could still outspeed. And I was able to actually catch the Tornadus on the switch out into Flutter Mane, so I was able to eliminate the Flutter Mane with the Heavy Slam in game 1, which was able to help seal up the victory. Then I prevented him from being able to reset Tailwind. In this case, because he switched out, I was able to get like pin knockouts, and then even if he set up Tailwind in a late game, as long as he didn't close combat crit me, I should have been able to seal the victory, and thankfully close combat did not crit. In game 2, my turn 1 could have been a little bit better, but I think it was fine. I think him going for Terra Poison to preserve the Tornadus because he needed Tailwind up kind of both hurt and helped him, because he was able to preserve the Tornadus, but the thing is, now that meant the Ogerpon couldn't go for the Terra, so it couldn't actually pick up the knockout into my Urshifu. But also another factor is the Flutter Mane also had a lot less damage output because I didn't have to worry about Terra Fairy. I was just able to stall out some turns. I was able to get rain set up with my Tornadus, survive the turn, which was very crucial because I was able to get another Tailwind up, and then afterward he was able to get a later Tailwind. But the thing is, even after that, it didn't really matter to me too much, because then I got like my Scarfer Shifu next to Iron Hands, and my Scarfer Shifu was threatening knockouts into everything. One thing I did was basically I pinned the Ogerpon slot, because our Shifu goes for Protect, Surging Strikes with Terra Water, Okos, everything on his team. The only thing that doesn't knock out is King Gambit and our Shifu on his team, and that goes down to the rain boosted Surging Strikes alongside a Wall Charge follow up. I didn't have to worry about like the Tornadus picking up the knockout because I did go for the Terra Water with Urshifu, and I had an Assault Vest Iron Hand, so all I had to do was pin knockouts. I got rid of his Urshifu on the switch when it switched out the Ogerpon into that Urshifu picking up the knockout, and then my Scarfer Urshifu was able to threaten every single KO into Flutter Mane or the Ogerpon. But it got a little bit dicey with the speed drop if it also crit my Iron Hands as well, but thankfully not both of those happened, and my Water Ogerpon was able to seal the victory. So I ended up winning the 2024 Peoria Regional Championship, and that is my 4th regional title. It's been a while since I even topped 8 a regional championship. The last time was back in 2019 when I won the Daytona Regional Championship, and it's pretty funny because I ended up getting 2 top 4s at the World Championship. I won the Latin American International Championship, and I got top 8 at the NIC of 2022, all in between my next regional top 8, which hopefully there's not going to be another 4 to 5 year break in between my next regional top 8 as well as a win potentially. But yeah, something that felt really good. Also, of course, I did play finals against literally the guy who I was in the car ride with. We literally shared the same bed. We were sleeping on the same bed that night, and yeah, really good friends, me and Lucas, so was really happy with the result. I ended up qualifying for the World Championship with this new result, and normally I've actually auto qualified for the World Championship through the getting top 4 at the previous World Championship, which was I qualified for 2022 and 2023 through that auto invite from getting top 4 at the previous World Championship, and I didn't have it this year, but I have it pretty early thanks to the new rule state where the champion of a regional championship does actually get an auto invite into day 1 of the World Championship. So that's pretty cool. Have 3 auto World Championship invites 3 years in a row. Pretty cool. I would love to defend my LIC championship because I'm the current reigning LIC champion. That would be really nice. I'd really love to top cut the EUIC championship because that's the only championship I actually have not made top 8. I've made top 8 at every single other international championship except that one. And I would love to win the World Championship title. But who else wouldn't really? But I've come so close so many times and I would really love to. So those are my goals for the upcoming part, and that would be great for the season. I think I just want to play the best Pokemon that I can potentially can, and I think if I do, I think I'll be able to have still a really solid season regardless. And yeah, hopefully we'll see how the future holds. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment down below, and of course subscribe to Beastcoast Pokemon for more videos.